All right, macro perspective. How's it going today? Hope everybody's doing well. If you haven't already, we would really appreciate a follow, a like, a subscribe, support on all platforms. Oh, by the way, it took us 2 years to get on Apple Podcasts, so we're there as well. So if you, fun fact, apparently most people listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So we're behind the times, but we have, I believe, every episode up, and you can check that out. And with us here today, we have a special guest, Shaun Sargent, and Shaun is going to give us a deeper dive into who he is, what he does, his mission. And Shaun, I'll let you go ahead and take the floor here and give us that insight.
Well, first of all, thanks very much, gents, for inviting me on. It's a great pleasure to be here and talking to you and talking to your audience. So, thank you for allowing that to happen. I'm probably different to most of the people you have on your podcast because they're experts, and I'm probably just an expert of life, or should we say an expert of exploring life and taking more or less every wrong turn needed to be. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, but don't hold that against me. I used to have my own accountancy practice in the UK. I think 13 years ago now I decided I wanted something different in life, so I left that. I'm still doing various CEO roles for global companies around the world. I'm 56 years old, and that sort of led me into a few years back thinking, I don't want to get old. I'm still 18 at best behind my eyes, and I really still want to be 18 on my last breath, whenever that might be. So what does a chartered accountant know about supplementation? What does a chartered accountant know about herbs and male health? Well, the answer to that is very little in the beginning, but I've taken it as my mission really just to learn and sift through the mire for myself. So Stait is my company with my wife, and the reality of Stait is it's for me. And you two guys are too young to remember the Remington razor advert where the guy said it's so good I bought the company. Well, people don't believe it when I say if I won't take it, we won't make it. They say, oh, that's grass, it's BS, blah blah blah, and it's like, no, honestly, the whole thing about this brand and the products was generated by my wife, who is definitely the smarter of the partnership. And she said to me when I was moaning about, I'm getting old and I don't want to get old and I still want to lift and I still want to do this, she said, well, why don't you make something that's going to help you do that? And I believe in synchronicity, and the synchronicity of that was we gave it away to the universe, just let it go. And 6 months later, we just had a chance meeting with a PhD scientist on a completely different project. And as part of that timeline setting, she said, well, I can't help you for 6 months because I have to finish my doctorate. And me being nosy said, well, what's your doctorate in? And she said, oh, male aging. So it's like, oh, really? We need to talk.
My favorite word is serendipitous. That's it right there.
Yeah. So, basically there's a lot of work went into it. She asked me all of your standard questions of, well, how much do you want to spend? What do you want it to do? Where would you like it made? And so on. And I just said, in the famous Raiders head coach, just got to work, baby. And that sort of blew her away because she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, if you could make the perfect ideal formula for a man going into his 50s, make it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested into profit matrices or retail pricing or any of that. Just put together what you would do to boost testosterone in me. And that's when my first lesson came. When she said, well, that's the typical response of every man wanting to boost testosterone, but you do realize that your testosterone isn't the problem. There are other things we need to do in the beginning. And I was like, no, the more is the better. I've been in gyms all of my life. I've seen, all my friends taking steroids, which, I didn't do because I don't like needles, nor do I like putting fake pills in my mouth, which I don't actually know where they come from. So I sort of stayed away from that. I said, no, it must be testosterone, right? And then we went into a whole lecture, which is probably 10 podcasts worth of her educating me on why testosterone wasn't the ultimate goal. But she created a formula which basically took care of the issues that men face but don't know they face, to allow the body to optimize, to then add the cherry on the top of the cake, which is testosterone. So that's a very long-winded introduction to me. Basically, I'm just a guy who wants to be the best I can be for as long as I can be that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. That's a great freaking intro. I love it. And I know, just speaking before this, it's no big deal. I really thought what was great was like, we don't need to talk about the formulation too much. We could leave it to the PhD for a part 2 on the Stait. What I really wanted to get into today was, Shaun, your story. Like, yeah, you're right. Why did you buy this company? Why did you make this thing? Because you were making a product for yourself. I think the best companies out there buy products or make products because it was solving their own problem. And usually that problem is pretty shared amongst most folks. And like you were saying, hey, energy, intensity, focus from 50 and onwards. So I think that speaks to the market. And maybe we can start there. And then we could get this PhD on for part 2. What do you think, Marcos? By the way, the formulation is probably one of my favorites. I love the fact that you brought like saffron extract into that with men's health around mental health and like depression. It's been amazing. But let's talk about that real quick. The way I've seen your marketing, we were introduced to this by Jason, one of our health coaches that you connected with here in the States. He's ex-military. He's a combat veteran, and he's been a great coach. He's coached me. I've done high rocks training with him. He's a high performer, right? But it seems like in Australia, your marketing has been for those high-performing men, men that have probably been in like military or like hard, like boots on the ground type of work. How did it come to that? How did that messaging come to that? Because obviously men after 50, like, yeah, you could take Stait. By the way, I'm taking it. It's great. How did you think, okay, let's start talking about these guys, for example? Was there something about that community that attracted you, that drawn on you, or like you just knew that they needed to be served in a different way and Stait was the one filling up that gap in the market?
It's really quite it just happened. Some long time ago, we were trying to find influencers in our beginnings of the previous name of the brand, and one of those influencers that was put forward was a Navy clearance diver, which is equivalent to your SEALs, I believe. I'm no expert in military, never served, but I have ultimate respect. And he was a great guy, and then he came on, and then some more guys from the Commandos came on, and then some guys from the SASR came on, and then we've had some guys from Britain who came on. Stait is a product for people who want to be their best.
Yeah.
And that being the case, you always want to be able to portray it as something that you want it to be. And in my view, first responders and the special forces guys are the best of the best. They do everything they can to be the best that they can be. And if we're looking at, I know it's the same in the US, it's certainly the same here. A lot of the special forces guys now do management and leadership training. And I've come from a managerial background, so key for me was, what can I learn from these guys that will optimize my performance in the boardroom? And it sort of went from there. And they're just genuinely fantastic human beings. So we sort of evolved like that, as opposed to anything specific. But then we've also got guys who are top leadership people. We've got world-class surfer. We've got one of the top chiropractors to Hollywood stars. We've got one of the guys is a mindset coach, and I think he's got about 48 Olympic gold medals now by teaching and training Olympians how to work with their subconscious. So these are all things that I really like. But the underlying thread is they're all elite in what
Yeah.
they do, be that the boardroom, be that for first responders, be that military. And we've also had such beautiful stories. I mean, you mentioned Afron. That was in our second iteration of the product, because I'm a tinkerer. And if I read something that's going to work in the product, I like, oh, we've got to get this in, And the team say, you've got to have a capsule this big and 10 of them a day to fit all of the ingredients you keep sending me. And it's like, no, I just want to do it. If it works and it's proven, I just want to do it.
Yeah.
So the Afron has been clinically tested in humans to be more beneficial than some of the psychiatric drugs.
Yeah.
We actually had a veteran who got blown up in Afghan, who was then a deep sea diver, and he was on serious PTS meds. We didn't know this, and we got a beautiful email from him saying, it came off my PTS meds under medical supervision. And we always say this to people, I'm no doctor. If you want to do something and you're on meds, talk to your healthcare provider to get the correct way to do it. Don't listen to something that I say without checking it out. So we always talk. He said, oh, no, my doctor was very happy to get me off them. And he said, my mood's been great. I feel very good. So, that just one story like that makes it all worthwhile. And Afron is seriously underrated. It's now getting a lot more, or saffron. Afron is its trademark name because it's a specific herb. The other thing that's worth mentioning at this time, and I've just seen a lot of products talking about fenugreek. There is such a thing as biosignature of herbs. So just because saffron could come from Sri Lanka, it could come from other places, there's a biosignature of herbs, which means that not all saffron will elicit the same effects. Same with fenugreek. I remember fenugreek came out in Men's Health saying, oh, fenugreek could help testosterone. I nipped down the health store and bought a bag of fenugreek and was just eating these seeds like a crazo, smelling like curry all day and having no noticeable effect. What we then found was it's only a specific form of fenugreek, which has been trademarked as Testosterone, which is the fenugreek we use.
Yeah.
So it's been a learning thing. And as I say, I'm a student of life and I've made every mistake and bought every supplement known to man and been disappointed with most of them. So it's part and parcel of what we're trying to do is educate people. If people buy Stait, fantastic. If they can get their own health in order by doing the basics of sleep, good nutrition, health, training, good water and so on, great. If you need a little help, Stait's there. But it's that education factor that actually brings people to avoiding the mistakes that we've made.
Yeah.
Wow. So, where to steer this? Where to navigate? Because I got questions on formulation side / this is obviously a brand that's definitely geared more towards men's health. And I know there's also like the Stait for women component, right? So maybe we talk about the differences of the two, right? Because what things are synchronous, right? Which ones have synergy in terms of like being included in both sides for the men and the women?
This is a really interesting one because it goes across the sexes and it goes across the ages. I thought you were going to say it's something for the older male. So when we were sort of beginning, and because we've got a couple of the Special Forces guys speaking about Stait, we had a number of questions from guys going for selection, which is pretty arduous. And they were in their early 20s. And I was saying to them, look, your hormone production should be optimum. There's should be no reason for you to take Stait, but I'll check with the medical team. And the medical team said, no, there's no dramas for them taking. It's not like taking steroids. It's not going to shut your own natural production down. It's not going to cause infertility or any of these things. It will be fine. So, okay, guys, take it. They had the most amazing results. So I went back to the team and said, how come, these guys are optimized? They're in their early 20s. I mean, they're going they should be going crazy. And she said, it's very simple. It's what I told you in the beginning. Testosterone doesn't work if stress hormone's present. They're stressed out of their brains. Their adrenals are overworking. The Stait works initially to support the adrenals and help the body deal with the chronic stress. Mm-hmm. Now, as you guys will know, as we've evolved, acute stress has always been quite helpful for us. Fight or flight, kept us from getting eaten by the dinosaurs or other tribes or whatever. But now in daily life, the body doesn't know any different between acute stress and chronic stress. So, the body's still thinking we're in that fight or flight, not fornicate. That's the polite word to use for it, which I've just learned. So, your body's full of stress hormone. Oh, I've got this deadline to do. I'm going for selection. Doesn't matter how much testosterone you've got flying around your body. It's not going to bind to the receptor sites. So so it's actually for all ages. So to then segue into the difference between Stait for men and Stait for women, we had a few ladies writing in saying, or a few guys writing in saying, my wife's taking Stait, is that okay? So we had to check, because as I'm no expert on this, don't want women turning into Eastern European shot putters of the 1970s, should we say.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. If you just start taking some Stait, and next thing you know, you're like jacked out of your mind.
Exactly. Well, the absolute honesty is there's no difference between Stait for men and Stait for women. It is the 100% same formulation.
Okay.
Because women have hormones, women have stress, women have blood sugar issues, women have mental health issues, and women have hormonal issues. In Australia, there was a product that contained testosterone only, and women that were perimenopausal, menopausal, were taking this and getting complete relief. Ladies were taking it and not having the crazy week in the month. But that product actually ceased to exist because it was too expensive to make. And here we are putting 9 other ingredients in, like Lunos. But the ladies who were taking it were getting massive relief from their perimenopause and menopausal symptoms.
Yeah.
So we asked the team again, how is this? And it's like, well, women have the same pathways and mechanisms as men. And, people like Gabrielle Lyon are talking a lot about testosterone in ladies now coming into their menopausal years.
Yeah.
It's not going to give you a mustache. It's not going to make you jacked. You actually need that for bone health, as well as muscle density and muscle-centric living and aging.
Yeah.
So why did we do it separately? Because you try and tell a guy he's taking a product his wife's taking, not going to happen. And you try and tell a lady she's taking a product that her husband's using to increase his testosterone, not going to help.
Yeah.
We don't hide it. We don't try and lie, but it's just a different marketing, different terminology. So
yeah,
that's funny.
That's so funny.
You're so right, though, with again, the packaging difference. I mean, from what I can tell here, just looking up the for women, because you sent us so graciously, some of the for men stuff. Ours is in like a very masculine containing like color way, right? Like the black and like these things that like would obviously draw the eye of the male consumer. And then the women's is like elegant and like white and clean and aesthetically like just probably land on their eye and their palate like
the webpage just looks like that. Like I love the webpage for I'm like, this is definitely luxurious woman
these are the
branding.
colors my wife and your fiance would choose for like how to paint our house, whereas we would likely paint it with the colors that are on the other side.
Yeah. And then the marketing too, I love like straight up like the reviews right away on the webpage are like the ladies looking bright and olive, and then like it's nice looking colors and just like almost the athleisure look, right? The aloe, the Lulu, right? Like it looks really good. And then the State for Men is like the same thing too, but like it's got like that colorway, right, Marcos? I love that.
Oh yeah. Well, and again, that's why I had to ask. I was like, is there a difference? Mainly because like knowing the ingredients and if there might be just different adjustments to it because of like nervous system and whatnot. Like, but obviously it's not necessarily like dosed to a level that would ever be, worrisome again.
And that's one of the bits that I've had to be educated in. If 2 caps is good, 4's better, 4's great, let's do 8, and so on. But you get to a point where there's returns. Sorry, my war dogs have just decided to go and kill a magpie or something crazy. But they'll go now. Sorry about that. It's all clinically dosed. And this is one of the things with the supplement industry. They'll take something that's a cheap ingredient like vitamin C. Most vitamin C is made in China. They drop it in. The body can't use it anyway. But they say, there's 10,000 mgs of vitamin C because everybody thinks vitamin C is good. Well,
Yeah.
You take your multivits and go to the bathroom, and most of it's coming out in your urine pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
we've gone for the exact doses used in the clinical trials, no more, no less, using the exact herbs used in those trials, because I think when we did our second batch, the company that makes it for us in Sydney, we don't offshore, we make in Australia, so we can guarantee the purity, which
Yeah.
is why we're able to say we're P-test friendly. We have a company out in Miami that tests it, and they do all the testing for UFC and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they were saying, oh, it's so expensive now with the herbs you got. We can use lookalike herbs, and that'll bring the cost down to a fifth of what you're paying.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so can you guarantee me we'll get the same results? And they said, oh, yeah, well, we think we can. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. Guarantee and think aren't the same. Can you guarantee? Well, no, we can't guarantee it. So I forget it.
Yeah.
It comes back to that. If it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I appreciate that. I actually want to go into that a little bit, like just kind of because you have a business background, you've been helping people and like, you're in the back end of business. You want to get great client results, great client customer, satisfaction. The thing Marcos and I talk about when we meet high performing men such as yourself, CEOs and folks that have had multiple businesses, success, you can't catch that in lightning more than once unless you know the pattern, right? And you know the pattern because you've done it in multiple platforms, multiple companies, right? You've created ethically great companies, and now you're just repeating that same pattern with Stait. Now, it was another company you're at, now you're at this company, but then now you're with Stait. And it's like, I think each business has their dark corners and it has their voids, right? Um, what have you learned, like with the supplement industry? Like I know that Australia, the packaging that you guys have at Australia and the checklist that you have to get is super high standard. It's a super high standard, super high purity rate, sourcing everything. What have you learned about making sure you're the AAA gold standard of the supplement industry in Australia? And what have you seen as like the dark corners of it?
I mean, what I've just mentioned there is one of the dark corners with lookalike herbs. Another dark corner is offshoring. Australia is a very expensive country to manufacture in, and the rules and regs are, you can say, stringent, but it's also inflexible, and that's a good thing and that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But you can get it made offshore in various locations. You can even buy white label stuff. I've got a friend who saw what we were doing and thought, oh, I'll start my own supplement company, and he came with a range of like 15 different things, and he's showing me the list, and it's like, oh, we could get this, we can do this, but it's not your brand, and you're no different to anybody else, and the ingredients are absolutely shocking, and that you've got no idea. Oh yeah, but the margins are great, and I'm going to do a great website. So it's the thing in the supplement industry, which is let's say the darkest corner. I mean, it's one of the most corrupt industries in the world. And that's why I got into it, because I couldn't find something for myself that I knew was authentic. And that's because, you get the fancy adverts. The one thing we're not very good at is marketing. There's a million companies better at marketing than we are. And, we refuse to compromise on the quality of the product. That you only have so much money. So you have a choice, quality of product or marketing. So we make the product, we try and keep the price as affordable as we can, and then we do whatever we've got left into the marketing. Other companies, and this was the situation when we started the project, they were saying, well, what's your target price? What sort of margin would you like? Where would you like to sell it? And then we work back to what we can put in it and how much it costs to make. I forget that. So we don't follow a traditional model of through the layers and the channels. We're direct to customer, because that's the only way we can actually make it moderately affordable for people and still maintain the quality, as well as building a community. You also see, I'm not going to mention names, but you will know these companies that pop up with superstars, and the superstar is the face of it behind a group of vulture capitalists. And I've dealt with vulture capitalists most of my time. I was in corporate finance. M&A when I did my accountancy profession. And I know it's like a pass the parcel, you trade up 5 times, Mr. X's company, and on the 5th time, whoever gets it unwraps it and it explodes because there's too much debt in there and not enough profit. So the company's my wife and I, and that's how it will be, because I want to be able to come on podcasts like this, or meet you face to face, or meet our customers face to face, and say it's the best we can do, and if we can do better, we will.
Yeah.
And I think that's supplement companies are very sexy now, but a fool and his money are easily parted with, and I know that because I'm the chief fool in my previous incarnation, and. I remember buying, it's a funny story, I tell it to people and they laugh. I used to do schoolboy motocross, and I read in the Joe Weider's Muscle and Fitness that there was this electrolyte drink that would boost your stamina by 20%. So you're doing 45-minute motos as a 14-year-old kid. And I thought, wow, this will be cool. If I'm 20% better, I don't need to put any work in. I just need this magic drink. So I saved up my pocket money, did my Saturday job, bought this stuff. It looked like urine, tasted like urine. I drank it, and I didn't feel any different. And it's like, let's say that was 13. I still was doing the same rubbish at 44. When I met my wife, I didn't learn. It's always, where's the magic pill? Where's the magic pill? And the same with MCT. I remember getting the MCTs when they first came out, thought, oh, this will be a great source of energy. Drank, half a bottle. Well, anybody who's taken more MCTs than they should knows it's you're better than Usain Bolt over the 100 meters to the toilet.
Yeah, I was about to say.
The bathroom.
I was about to say you need to get to the bathroom real quick, Sean. It's I remember that too, though. The MCT craze. It's funny. I mean, first off, I appreciate what you're saying here about supplements and like the dark corners, and that question is loaded. I don't want to put anyone out there, but I do appreciate that. I know Marcos and I both appreciate an authentic, organic, real company with real people, because we get it. You're hustling. You're doing the grind. You're wearing all the hats. Yeah, you're the CEO and the accountant and the freaking janitor at the same time, and you're doing everything. And that's hard hustle. That's respect, and it's cool to see you guys scale and now like move from Australia to wanting to open up your markets. And I think we're gonna have great conversation here for that. But I think it's funny you say that. Like, I feel like I was caught in that too, right, Marcos, where you read the magazines, you get the good marketing, and you're like, man, I want to try this out. And you buy all these products. But like, it's funny, even though like we're both science minded and like we're both performance minded and we do the research, we still get caught in the gimmicks. We still, I'm like, I'm going to give that a shot. I just put like $50 for a product that's not really that good, it has no like actual science behind it. It was just all that. And nothing against the MCTs. I think they're a great product, but you can't be abusing it like that. I remember I was putting that in all my coffee because of the bulletproof craze. And I was like, they were flavoring it in different ways. And I was like, I could have more of this. You can't have more of that.
And also now, I mean, MCTs aren't MCTs anymore. You've got the C8, the C10. They're the things to have. And yet how many companies actually are putting that in? And who knows that? You go to a cafe and say, oh, you can have a bulletproof, and they put MCTs and they charge you $5 down here for a little teaspoon of MCT to go in. And it's like, is that the real MCT? Is that the MCT that's going to help me? Or is that just the making their profit? And, we all get conned with it. And I mean, that's in a way, the beauty of life. It's just about that learning aspect. However, who knows these things? It's like whey protein. When whey protein came out, the backstory of whey protein is I think McKinsey were employed by the US Agriculture Department to help them deal with their whey residues because it was costing them too much to dispose of. So all of us guys in England, read this in the magazines, and we all got on the cross-filtered whey, blah, 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 and, get rid of the egg protein, get rid of the casein. No, this whey stuff's great. I mean, now, no disrespect to people who like whey, but I mean, the dairy industry, whey is a byproduct, and the byproducts in whey are all of the injectables and growth hormones and antibiotics that went into the cows. And it's like, great, that's really cool. No wonder men have got hormonal problems. If you want to do it, do it. But, our whole thing is educate. If you are educated and you make that choice, it's like TRT or steroids. I have no problems with that. If people want to do that, educate yourself, get the proper advice. I've seen any number of my friends die from steroids. Do I think steroids are dangerous? No. Do I think these guys abused it? Absolutely. 50 Anapolon tablets when you're supposed to have one a week, and then you wonder why you're crapping blood and your liver's, smashed. And it's like, for what? All he wanted was a plastic trophy. He should have gone down the trophy shop and put one on to make his mum proud. And sadly, he died. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a good look, guys. When you're
Yeah.
20, yeah, I can do that. I'll survive. When you're 40 and you're really knackered, not so good.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, the trade-offs or we're in this space now of like optimization, optimize this, live forever, reduce your age. It's like very, I mean, the buzzwords these days. I think if I didn't have the job I had, I would probably be more influenced by everything that I hear and read, to be honest with you. But I do think part of what you're discussing here today, and that people should know, is one, the first thing you do is sourcing high quality ingredients, and obviously coming from a country where there are more stringent standards. Like my mentor basically was like, if you can get it from like Australia or New Zealand, they have the highest standards for whey. So like always look for that on like your bag and label. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, and I think that still holds to this day for like those manufacturing products for whey protein. Additionally, he's like, look for full label transparency. And obviously that's like a big thing that you guys are obviously about, in order to get those clinically, efficacious doses. And at the same time, some people might be like, but why can't this just be one pill? Right? Like yours is a 4-pill serving, but it's like, right, to get all the stuff and the right ingredients sourced from the right thing that actually is the scientifically backed studies because of that particular trademarked version of it, right? Like there's a lot that goes into it. And then you have that shown there, which again, you guys already like check all those boxes for. I think, like, again, you've obviously noticed this problem in modernity. Like the cheaper way is the way that they'll probably go, but to go the right way, it does potentially eat into how you'll do business. But most people, I think, that are really about longevity and their own health care. And again, like you just said, they could also be using some other HRT or other things. Like this is a thing that can also help support that, though.
Exactly.
And we're Seamus and I are big fans of finding ways to use like, things in the nutraceutical space, these raw patented materials. Our boss who we've had on our podcast talks about these things in our sourcing as well for a lot of our things. And like, then we get asked that question. It's like, why is your shit so expensive? It's like, well, the actual ingredient that's in the study ain't cheap. I mean, most of the studies, I think, for creatine, for example, are on Creapure, which is the one that you guys use. And it's really actually very difficult to find that these days.
Yeah.
Like on its own.
It's even more than that. It's like they have to approve you to use it. Because, I learned a lot about creatine. When creatine first came out 20 or 30 years ago, we were all taking them on a hydrate in the big bags and wondering why we were bloated and blah, blah, blah. So that science has come a long way now, and certainly for TBI and aging and muscle-centric living, creatine is the elixir. So, of course, when it's, as you were saying just a minute ago, people read about it, and then, of course, the vultures jump in. Creatine, right, creatine's a new thing to do. What I didn't realise was a lot of creatine out of China is toxic. It's contaminated with all sorts of nasty side ingredients, and then also creatine oxidizes. So if you've got a big tub of creatine, it's oxidizing and losing its efficiency, which is why we seal it as quickly as possible, so it's in the single-use sachets.
That's I love those single packets. I took that on my trip to New York this week, and I was like,
I was wondering about that
great.
too. Why not a tube, and why these individual? Again, like convenience of travel stuff. Like I'm like, okay, cool, but like then obviously on the site you don't have it in that. But that makes a ton of sense for just kind of sealing in potency and kind of ensuring that from a quality analysis standpoint.
Yeah. So we did that, and we did some research, and Creapure is the one to have. So, okay, let's get on with the Creapure. So we went to the Aussie manufacturer again and said, oh, Creapure, we're going to use Creapure. He went, there's a process. So we had to contact Creapure in Germany, send them our site, send them our marketing, send them our studies, send them who we were. I think this is a bit sort of backwards way on, surely they should be saying, oh, you, Mr. Brand owner, please use our thing. And it's like, nah, they have to approve you to use it, which I think is fantastic because they don't want it putting any mixed in with things that are going to be reducing their brand quality, should we say.
Wow, that's awesome. That's actually really great. That reminds me of this book, Atlas Shrugged, that talks about like Reardon's steel and like how his steel was the best. And he's like, I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be like messed up with other company. I want it to be the best because it's the But yeah. Anyways, Marcus, go ahead.
Or nothing. I mean, like stuff like that, like little touches. I know that like maybe the lay person, and or people that are looking to get in and include supplements that they haven't before, again, like as coaches too, like one of our biggest factors that Seamus and I will typically kind of consider is like, well, they're paying for our guidance, but at the same time, we have to try to find products that also don't break the bank, so there is kind of that trade-off. And then, like you just said, the toxicity or long-term sourcing. I mean, it would be great to ensure that all those things were just like that, like you're saying. And I think as Seamus and I hopefully continue to build our own brands and our own, the macro perspective, like podcast, that we can have people like yourself help with, like, again, endorsements and make sure that people that we're working with are getting those things, and find a way to include it as part of like what we charge them in a sense, because that's like, again, the biggest thing. Like people are like, what do you recommend? And I was like, well, what's your budget? Is my first question. Like, I'd love to get you the KSM 66 and all these like raw patented materials, but like, again, like where is it best served right now? You know what I mean? Like, are you eating, like you just said, like the first thing that PhD person said was like, are you eating, high quality, nutrient dense foods first and foremost? Because if you're eating Taco Bell or whatever, place of choice, chances are we should just start with that and get, like, again, maybe a big mover, big lifter, like you just said, like your base supplement, right? Like the main driver, right? Versus the other additional ones that can have benefit, but and the main driver is like, this is going to help your stress response and things that might help your sleep and cognitive function. Let's do that. Plus eat good versus, all those other things. And plus, like, your main, what's the main one again? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here.
It's called just State.
Just
State.
State.
Just State.
State.
Okay, so that product is the State.
That's where we ran out of the marketing budget to come up with a funny name, so we just had to call it State.
No,
State.
Does State mean something specifically, Shaun? Like it's like a specific word, or
there's a long version to that, Seamus. Basically, we used to be called Be Spunky, which was my. Obviously, I'm an accountant, not a marketeer, but in Australia, spunky means virile. Like a man being a man.
oh,
That obviously had legs, but very limited because people thought it was a crass name. People remembered it, but it's pretty crass. So we paid a marketing agency a phenomenal amount of money to come up with a name and a few bits. The first name they came up with was already taken. Like, I thought you'd done a deep dive into the supplement world, and you want us to call it this. Yeah, and it was a big American company. I could think, we're going to get absolutely hammered if we start putting this name out. So then they rapidly came with State, and in the end, it's state of mind, state of being, and they just spelt it slightly differently, just so it's memorable. I mean,
I love that.
I'm not a marketeer. I can't tell you and extol the million reasons why they thought of it, but
they give you
the
whole deck of it, right? The whole deck and pitch about like how this and the letters being cut off have a particular meaning behind it, and we've heard of a few of those pitches of things before, for sure. And even when we try to create, like, we kind of use our little emoticon or favicon, right, as a lot of things that we just kind of put in the corner when it comes to like our, like our
branding.
Well, our dude, what are they called? The covers, right? And
thumbnails,
the thumbnail cover. And at the same time, we then also had like, we want a refresh to this, like a year into it, and we did it, and we've like I like the imagery behind it because we thought of it together. It's like a brain that is the roots of this tree is a brain, and the brain has, you know, this thing growing out of it. So like you're gaining this knowledge as your mind expands. And, you know, we've like seldom really put that on much of anything, even though like it still holds a deep place in my
It
heart.
holds so dear, but I don't think I felt like our specific branding. We have to rehash it, Shaun, but we'll figure it out, Marcos.
But again, like I still like I still have it on my phone because it actually is a reminder of like, you know, there's levels to this, and this is expanding our thinking into territories that we're not, again, like you just said, like, you know better because you've run other companies to know like that is not my department whatsoever, but we're like have to put that hat on. So we're like, this is definitely not a department, but we need a little more money to throw at this in the future.
Yeah.
I think that's an important point there, Marcus, is whilst, and it's that trust control dilemma. I mean, you kindly say of my other businesses, business is about people. And whether it's a supplement business, an accountancy business, a legal business, car business, it's about people. So you can't get away from the fact it's relationships. And that's why with Stait, we're very clear. It's my wife and I. If a customer emails in, I will email them back. Now, to get the marketing agency saying, no, we'll get bots to do it and we'll get this to do it. And no, you can outsource that to the Philippines. And it's like, if somebody's forked out their hard-earned cash to invest in themselves with Stait, the least I can do is be present enough to contact them if they have an issue, thank them if they write a review. And, you know, I think marketeers are great at what they do, most of all marketing themselves. But they've all got these great ideas of what it could be and what it isn't. And yet trying to get that translated into the real world is very different. And I mean, we go through social media companies like a hot knife through butter, because you always get the pretty girl or pretty guy at the beginning, and then you end up with the junior at the end. And it's like, no, it's me. You like me or you don't like me, that's up to you. But it's me versus this mis-selling. And you see that across all walks of business. They put out the attractors, the pretty flowers, and then of course you end up with somebody you've never met before doing the work for you, and you didn't buy them. And you know, what we're keen on is, you know, to build a community with Stait that people can belong to, feel part of, and trust that they will get as accurate information as we can give them, rather than buy, you know, because that's just a nonsense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Marcos and I have really, I think Marcos more than me, because I get starry-eyed sometimes. But Marcos is like, no, I really want to work with people. Like we have a few companies that we're just affiliating with. Like we've had them on, like Kineon Momentum, which is like an apparel company, and we had this other one. But like Marcos was like, I think they just kind of got way big, and their marketing is just all they put into, and they just want you to keep buying. And I'm like,
they did what Shaun said, right? I told you, like they're like, all right, cool. We're going to really rely heavily on like ambassadors and people promoting the brand and like use social media influencer types. And then it quickly, I mean, there again, like for the particular person that's good at that, like I know that they did pretty well in the beginning, but then it's like they're dropping a 40% off in your email. And like, that's more than what I can offer with the code. And I'm pretty sure they don't stack. So I'm just like, just pay it. Like people are like, well, I want to support you guys. And it's like, no, like if you like the shoes, just like order it, like just wait till you get the 40% off. Like we're not trying to make anything off of it. We just also like the shoes. We weren't trying to do anything there.
And we're not, and that's the thing. So question here though, Shaun, you know, obviously the company's been around for some time. Community is this thing that Marcos and I love a lot. Connection, deep connection, and authentic people like yourself. And I mean, I really appreciate you being here and having this conversation, letting the audience know, like, hey, this supplement industry stuff, like if you've been here for some time and actually stayed at the highest level, it's probably pretty freaking hard, but you have to have a community behind that. How do you build your community? Do you guys have like a group that you connect with? Do you have like people in person? Is there like a connection group? Is there an in-person? Like, how do you make that happen? Do you go to events? Like, how do you do the community?
A number of different ways. We don't put on big fancy events because that costs money, and you know we haven't figured out the guerrilla way of doing that yet. I'm sure we will. One of our key ambassadors, Scott Evanett, who's just a nuclear power plant in a human body. You know, he keeps us pretty honest, and you know he's done any number of communities for veterans and for people who like to do the boot camp. So he's helping us do things with community, but we like to drop things in. So we would support some veteran days. We support the Veteran Games in Australia, which is run and organised by one of our ambassadors, Major Heston Russell, who was in charge of Special Forces training in Australia, multi-decorated veteran. So we support that. So it's these little events where State's present. We support my old American football team in the UK, again, just as a little nodule of community in that part of the world.
Yeah.
And then it's more or less online. You know, people are busy, and the last thing they want is, oh, I've got to go to this meeting tonight. Oh, they're doing this or doing that. So we say to people, we're here. You come to us whenever you want. You're part of a community which is Stait. We do our newsletters. We do our sort of social media. We do various podcasts or lives or whatever. Just because people are busy, we don't want to intrude in their lives or to make it difficult to be part of the community. You can be as active or as non-active in the Stait community as you wish, but always be assured at the centre there's Samantha and myself, and if you reach out, we're here.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, how many? I don't know how to ask this, but I'm kind of curious. Like, so you've been around for how long? When was the inception of this?
Around 7 years.
7 years, okay. And so, like, how many lives have you impacted? Would you say, at this point?
I would say probably it's definitely thousands. It's not hundreds of thousands, sadly. You know, my target is to really make Stait available and to have people have an awareness that there is a choice. Whether they choose it or not is up to them. You know, I have nothing against the alternate methods of not aging. If you want to go on to growth hormone and TRT, please, if that resonates with you, do it under medical supervision and be aware of the positives and the negatives. Fantastic. No worries. If you want to do something else, right? If, as you were saying before, you want to use Stait as a PCT, please do. We've had any number of guys who have not suited TRT for whatever reason and then restarted themselves with Stait. So I guess it's in I would like to say tens of thousands.
Yeah.
We definitely got an active community of around 7,000 currently.
Wow.
But one of the challenges we face is, as you guys know, herbs aren't like taking a synthetic. You know, if you think of, in the good old days when you could take ephedrine when it was legal, you take a couple of ephedrine tablets, and I've done it. You know, I've been. Sunday morning is legs day, so you know, I used to drop 3 ephedrine from a great company in America, and then go to church. And then after I'd been to church, I would nip to the gym and do my legs. Well, you can imagine.
So you pray to God that you survive leg day?
Sorry?
You pray to God you're going to survive leg day.
Exactly. And you can imagine, church in England at that time, there was 4 old ladies and this guy in his baggy gym gear with crazy wear all over it, going down to the front, like height, getting whacked out after it. But it worked, and you knew it worked, and it was good. And whereas now herbs are more subtle. So we say to people, they say, how long will it take to work? It's like, well, some guys get it in 4 to 5 days. Some guys take 8 weeks. Some guys take 12 weeks. What is a more important question is, what is your lifestyle like? And you were talking a bit before, Marcus, about, guys sleeping and so on. The big thing currently for me is xenoestrogens. And, Dr. Shaun Sargent has been on Joe Rogan and freaked him out about, spermogenesis and the fact that by 2035, we probably won't be able to reproduce naturally because of the decline in men's testosterone, sperm health, sperm mobility, and so on. There's so much contamination of the human body by xenoestrogens, and yet very few people talk about it. So, you drink your water out of a plastic bottle, you microwave your food, you wipe your backside with plastic-coated toilet roll. The receipts you get from the shop or the supermarket are so highly coated in very active BPF containing plastic. And then you wonder why your male health or female health is so disrupted. So it's that education of people. They're easy things. Buy a stainless flask, filter your water,
Yeah.
make sure your toilet roll is not plastic coated. I mean, it's the most absorbent, sensitive area in the human body and next to the prostate. And yet most guys are wiping their backside with plastic
Yeah.
coated
My
toilet
God.
roll. And it's like, oh, I wonder why it's not
That
working. It's like,
prostate stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's funny you say this. I was just at a conference and this doctor, pediatrician, she's like ahead of this research, wrote a book on it. I think it came out recently, Healthy Kids, Happy Kids. And everything that you're talking about, from the microplastics to the mycotoxins, um, in this day and age for our children, they're just so exposed to more of these things now. And they're like, I believe the statistic was they're 11 times more likely to intake those, because when you're a kid, your pores, your hands, your mouth, like all those things can take in more than an adult can.
Yeah.
And it's so plastic. And I was like, oh yeah. And then they talk about, the examples of like, yeah, your kid's playing with a plastic toy that could be coated in something, and then they're playing outside. And nothing wrong with outside, but certain parts of the outside can be, the wood could be fragmented with something. It's just not trying to fear mong. She was just trying to say like, look, like just be very careful in these instances and just be aware of your surroundings, and your environment and the things that you're buying.
Exactly. And I mean, it's the hidden things too, like the mycotoxins in coffee and grains. Not to mention the glycophosphates that they spray on the grains just before harvest because it increases the yield. And Robert Kennedy talking a lot about this now, which is great. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics on your podcast, but I think somebody who's as pro good health as he is, then I hope he gets to knock a few things down, because you're kind about Australia and our stringent regulations, but in some ways, yes. But they used to say Sydney water was some of the purest water in the world. You could drink in the harbour and so on. And recently, they've done analysis of the water, and it's full of birth control pill and cocaine.
Oh,
Fantastic, people aren't filtering the water, and then they're wondering, why guys are what they are, because they're drinking birth control pill. Fantastic. These are the things people need to be aware of, regardless of what Stait does. And we try and sort of do as much of this as we can without being preachy or dictatorial. But I have any number of guys come to us as a last chance saloon, and the email starts with, "I've tried all of the other shit, so I'm going to give yours a go." And it's like, don't bother. Please don't bother, because you've already thought in your own mind it's not going to work. So it's not going to work subliminally. You've already told yourself. And what's your life like? Oh, well, I like going down the pub and having 5 or 6 schooners of beer, with the boys, and I eat fast food and I don't sleep very well. It's like, don't. Just save your $150, man, because it ain't going to help you, and neither will exogenous testosterone, because your body is a mess. Clean your body up first, and then do whatever. It is possible to change, but you've got to change.
I love your honesty there. That's probably like the realest marketing I've ever heard, right, Marcos? Like, don't even come to us, dude. Like, just like don't do it. Like, there's no point. Like, I'd rather not take your money. I'd rather have you be as healthy as you can possibly be, and then when we can serve you, come back. We're not going anywhere. I love that.
Yeah. I think too that you mentioned, like, I think I would also love for people to know that your stuff can work in conjunction with those other things, if in a way that there is some synergy between it, because we've recognized that there are additional benefits to, like, the lowest amount of whatever medication you might need. Again, that maybe you do need a little bit more of a boost to produce the amount that's there. But again, a little bit for people in conjunction with the receptor density getting better from some of the things that your herbs do. Like those are other variations of East meets West that I think a lot of people can consider doing, and something that, again, anecdotally, I can kind of say, like, I'm seeing more of it where, they're like, well, why would I keep using kind of like, quote, a natural T booster, right? And it's like, well, the mechanism on which it works, it's like it's lowering that stress profile. And maybe you are just also a high functioning individual CEO type, or starting your own business, and you need some things to help calm that down. So the other stuff can do its job too. So I would also like to mention that here because I think that these things can work synergistically, especially knowing like with Seamus and mine's background in the clinical setting and, seeing people utilize, peptide therapy in addition to hormone replacement therapy, in addition to our nutraceutical line, like, there's levels to it, like it's not just a straight shot to going to that particular outcome. But, with our clinical care, I will definitely say it's like, hey, where are you at in life? Let's try this first. Let's see if this can do it. Let's give it, 90 days and reevaluate. All right, cool. Well, how are you feeling? Because also too, those numbers are just numbers, right? Like you got to think about how you're doing subjectively. Oh, I'm clear in my head. I'm focused. I have good energy. All right, cool. Your levels didn't rise 400 points or whatever that is. And you're not less of a man, but you're, again, are you able to boink your wife? Are you able to do these things? Are you able to do everything that a man's supposed to do kind of thing? Are you ready for that action?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So it is giving you some, benefits, even though the numbers aren't quote at this,
optimal level.
Optimal. Right. And it's, and it's interesting, because like I don't, you're mentioning a lot of things again that my mentor Travis had talked about for years. And I mean, like the guy looked like he was freaking Zeus himself, and was very much on the same boat as you, as like, okay, like your dishware, right? How are you heating up food? Like, I know a microwave isn't the most ideal place to do it, but if you have to, can you use, a good Tupperware, quote unquote, right? That's glass, right? What are you drinking water out of? What are you doing? Like, what's your cosmetic line look like? Even for guys, like, again, like my wife makes me wear like hippy dippy freaking deodorant that doesn't work for shit, but I got to apply it 3 times a day. But I know I'm not going to be getting like aluminum and some other stuff in it. And I stink for her just because, she loves that.
There is a great deodorant. My Samantha has got another business called Bigenki, which is Japanese for healthy, happy, and holistic health.
Oh,
and she brings in all of the pure brands to Australia. So we use a natural deodorant, which actually does work. So I'll send you the details of that after this, because you don't have to smell. But I mean, what you've said there, I think is really important. Like you mentioned your mentor Travis looking like a Greek god. Like, I'm Shaun, you're Marcus, you're Seamus. Our levels will all be different. What we can do and what we're good at will all be different. We're different. We're humans. I'm never going to be in SEAL Team 6. No matter what I do, I'm never going to be in SEAL. I have not got that level of resilience or whatever. So I remember meeting Tom Platz in the gym. And I trained and Bill Kazmaier. Like 2 of my absolute heroes. I mean, they were colossuses. Platz was like one of Snow White's dwarfs. But geez, he did a leg training session with us, and oh my, it's like, don't meet your hero. Well, no, don't meet him, because you'll not be able to walk for at least whatever. And Kazmaier just like went on the seated row and did everything as a warm up, and like nobody else in the gym had ever moved that way. So it doesn't matter what I do, whether I take Stait, whether I jab myself in the backside with illicit drugs or do it under medical. I'm never going to be that. And I think that's what we're trying to educate people with too. Is be happy with who you are. Be the best you can be.
Yeah.
And what you said there, Marcus, of your levels, like, Heston doubled his levels. Jason Gilbert doubled his levels. Great. But where did they start from, and what were those levels? Because somebody might look at those and go, wow, they're amazing, they're so high. And another guy go, that's pussy, I've got 3 times that, because that's their genetic makeup. And that's fine. And I think what you guys do, and it's really important, is you're there to support people so they've got a base level to begin with, and you can manage them through that process so that they know they're being the best they can be. And if we embrace that, it took me 55.5 years to get to that. I always wanted to be Arnold or Dorian Yates or some other effing superhero. It's never going to be. So I've had to accept that. My knees aren't very happy for me. My neck's not very happy for me. My back hurts. But hey, I'm now happy to be Shaun. And I think that's what we're trying to do in Stait too, is, we have these elite guys, but we also have our customers, and we post pictures of our customers too, who are just the average Joes. And they just get the results that they get. And, just to show people, hey, everybody's welcome, any age, any ethnicity, as long as you've got the commitment to be the best you can be. And so I think whether you use that in conjunction with the work you guys do with peptide, just be the best you can be and don't compare yourself to somebody else, because it's a fruitful task.
Dang,
Oh yeah.
man.
And the comparison really is the thief of joy, even if it's you against yourself. I was telling Seamus today, I'm like, it's been a while since I've done a DEXA. My weight's actually down. And I was like, oh my God, like, do I want to see this? Like, where am I at? And like my muscle, my lean mass is quote down. Granted, I have a decent amount of it to begin with, but I'm like, like, like and again, like comparing against myself, I'm like, I really haven't been like as dialed in with like my food to what level. Like I've been like more kind of like, maintenance, like eat my protein, but don't track it. I've been doing this and did actually change training modalities for a while. And I was like, oh, like, I guess like when people literally talk about, you might have, you might gain in some areas, but lose in others. Like, I don't know if it was almost like a protective mechanism. My body put on a little extra fat as a result of trying to train running more than like just straight hypertrophy work. Right. And you know what, like I looked at it and my other colleague, said it too. She's like, well, like, come on, you really care that much? I was like, selfishly, yeah, I want that number to be at fucking 200. Like, I want 200 pounds of lean tissue, 0% body fat, But I was like, but what it tells me is that like I have to get back to work. Like that number there is like, man, I can be doing better. I want to get back to work. And what it told me too was like, I actually have to go eat more food. I gotta like try to build this back up and get the bellies to fill up. And again, for a lot of people, and being in the other side of that conversation where I'm the health coach, whereas my other colleague Bonnie was coaching me. She's like, it's like, come on, like you did this experiment, like you already got down to like the nutty level. Like I was like, yeah, but like if I'm not striving for something, like why would I care?
Yeah.
So that element and being the best that you can be, I think it's just like you just need to have a personal drive and understand that you can be better. And you can focus on things when it matters most to you, but also too, don't let it consume you. I'm happy that this happened today, and that's why I called Seamus before this to let him know, like, dude, this is what happened.
This is what happened. I like that, and I think it's important to have that objective reality there, but also like not be so neurotic. Like, okay, yeah, just make a slight shift. Oh, training's just gonna change, eating's gonna change. It's not this like beat me up, woe is me, and it's all there. But
give yourself the freedom to actually do something that your mind and your intuition knows. Like I know, I knew visually. I was like, something tells me that like there's something off and I need to fix it. And I don't think it's not a hormonal thing. It's definitely not a sleep thing. I'm sleeping better than ever, which is fantastic. But it is like my intent, and the supplements can help drive things. But also too, you have to look back and understand that, you're going to go through phases. And again, training will dictate a certain outcome, right? The way that you eat will dictate another part of it. And then the other things that you add in exogenously to help you, deal with those things and feel your optimized self. I think those things are super important. So, I mean, again, I'm going to try to like see if, again, it could be today I actually got through the morning and I was like, dude, I actually feel stressed today. Like, so I'm going to start taking some Stait and kind of see like, again, if the ashwagandha and the other stuff in there that help remedy those things will help me feel still like focused and, better mood state. And now that I know that it is the exact same thing, like, hey babe, you take this other pack over here. Tell me how you feel. Cause she does do a little more.
Well, we can always send your partners some Stait for women. I mean, more than happy for them to have a go with that because, as I say, Sam is a health coach. She's been in the nutrition space for 25 plus years at the extreme end of clean. So, she was like, I don't need to take this and my hormones are fine, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, well, I better take it because if ladies are writing in, I need to know about this and there needs to be some authenticity. Why would I sell something I don't take? Mm-hmm. So she's been taking it now for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
No crazy, the crazy hot scale, I mean, she's definitely getting it up to the unicorn aspect there because, we don't have any weeks before where you have to hide the knives and hide in your bedroom. And, she's never been a gym bunny per se, but she's as jacked as anything because, she does her training and it's like, wow, that's really working well for you. So yeah, we'll get some ladies packs out for you guys.
I appreciate that. Well,
Love it.
Shaun,
You really don't have to do that. I'm
we
more
don't
than
have to
happy
do
to
that.
share with her and then buy it for the next time, just to like
Exactly.
See what she does, Marcus. Give her a couple of weeks worth, and then see how she goes with it. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Shaun, we are over an hour. I just want to be respectful. I just wanted to say, thank you so much for your time. That hour went by so fast. Like, it's just so nice to hear from someone that's like in the field that we're in and just is also so authentic.
The authentic part, like Seamus saying, like doing it like as part of being a part of the community and running the brand, which Seamus and I can really appreciate. Like, again, like I feel like that's like you just said, that's unicorn behavior in today's society. So
yeah, everyone's optimizing for. I saw this the other day. Everyone's optimizing for finances, and it's like the quote afterwards was like, "Yeah, money's a great like servant, but it can also be a wicked master." And I feel like you're not in that space of like where it's becoming like, oh, it's taken over. You're really like rich in giving back. You're rich in your product. You're rich in love, rich in relationships, but you're making sure that you're optimizing for a harmony. And yeah, the money will come along and the marketing budget will be better and stuff. But I just want to be respectful of the time, Shaun. We can chat a little bit after. But where can people find you? And what is your absolute goal now? I know Jason mentioned trying to get into the American market. Where can people find you, and how can the American folks start getting your product?
Well, yeah, big thank you to Jason. As a guy who has a Malwar too, then it's like you connect over dogs, and then the rest of it follows. So I'm grateful for him sort of reaching out and having a good chat and introducing me to you guys. We already have a logistics hub in Texas, so we're very ready to break into the US market.
Nice.
We've got some meetings later this week with some guys to see how they best think of that. Our website is Stait for Men, StaitFormen.com. And anything into the US market takes a couple of days from order to delivery. So we're pretty well set up. The only thing we don't have there is customers yet. So hopefully all of the guys watching this podcast get some idea of who we are. You just did a little line there, and said what's next for Stait. The reality is, my motto is do good, have fun, and then the money will come. It's trite. I didn't make it up. It's not my saying, but I live by that because I think in the end of it, if you're not doing good, why are you doing it? If you're not having fun, why would you do it? I love my accountancy work. I love my accountancy profession. I love my clients. Most of them still keep in touch with me over 10 years later because we had fun.
Yeah.
The money is a byproduct of doing good and having fun. So that's what Stait's actually about.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Macropod, you guys heard it there, man.
Yeah. Shaun, thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Jen.
It's coming stateside here in 2025, it sounds like. Macro Perspective people, thank you so much for listening to this episode today. Shaun, you had mentioned a community. Do you have like a Facebook group or something for people? Or is there, that was my last question.
No, it's a sign up on the web at the moment. We are looking at website, Facebook groups. Scotty, as I mentioned, has run communities for the Special Forces, so he's looking to create a community group for us too. But the best way is go on the website, sign up, then we do the weekly newsletter. We don't bombard people, Marcus, because everybody's busy. Who wants a mail a day? It's like, forget it. We just try and give people good stuff in a timely way. So Stait for Men, sign it up, and then join the community.
Perfect. There you guys heard it.
Awesome. Until next time, guys. Take care.
Thank you.